little Sydney Sweeney interview that went down at the end of last week has gone mega viral for very good reasons. Now, I referenced it in the Jennifer Lawrence video that I did at the tail end, I think Friday or something like that of last week, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And without seeing any of the reactions of anybody else that was out there, okay, like everybody has pinpointed the exact same thing. It has become a meme format, just overnight, where you can just see Sydney's absolute detestation for this liberal hack journalist sitting across from her, just begging her, pleading with her to please genuflect at the altar of white self-hatred. And Sydney just goes, yeah, no, I'll talk to you when I have something to say about it. It's hilarious. It's absolutely great, and everybody and their mother has talked about it. And well, it really does play into, okay, like Sydney Sweeney's 2025, and even if you want to just go all the way back to 2024 when things really started to kick off for her, I'm out of the loop when it comes to Euphoria. It was one of those, critic darling shows. Don't know what it did in the ratings. Maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Who really cares? But yes, she was being positioned in one way, especially during that show, because the media, the left, they desperately wanted her to be a part of the club, and it looked like she was kind of going in that direction. But then after Madam Web and that absolute mess that was, setting up several different Spider Women to, I would imagine Sony and other interested parties really wanted that to take off so that they could go ahead and finally supplant Spider-Man with a female counterpart. But we all know what ended up happening there. Sydney Sweeney raised her profile ever so slightly with the appearance of one simple red dress, and the rest has been history. 2025 has been very kind to her, including that American Eagle ad and the several other ad sprees she has done as well. And yeah, coupled with a genuinely approachable personality, she has probably come out of this lackluster, pathetic year better than anyone I can think of, and definitely better than Hollywood in general, which is why they are seizing on any opportunity to try to drag her down. Because she is an actress by trade, she just so happened to have a movie come out this past weekend, and yes, it was a biopic for Christy Martin. I had to go and double check that. I want to call her Christy Swanson for some reason. I don't even know where that comes from, but yeah, Christy Martin, a female boxer that I think I've probably heard of before, but honestly, it's a niche topic. And I've heard a couple of things. I've heard that this is a pretty decent movie, and she puts in quite a good performance. And due to the fact that there is not really that many, even from people that are a lot more plugged into the indie and much more artsy film scene, there's not really too many prominent female performances in film, so a couple of good performances with a lack of competition, she could end up with an Oscar nod off the back of this performance, which would be the way that this would be spun if the media in Hollywood didn't hate Sydney Sweeney. But how are they approaching this? Well, from a sheer numbers perspective, and honestly, it's a pretty bad beating that Christy took at the box office. And honestly, I understand it. I didn't see a lot of marketing for this. There was some around, okay? Like, this wasn't it definitely didn't get shadow dropped at the theaters, but I was also unaware of when it was going to the theaters, although I've seen some posters and stuff, and obviously, whenever Sydney does an interview, it gets some kind of attention. But yes, Christy starring Sydney Sweeney opens to $1.3 million at the domestic box office. Yeah, and the international, it's not that great. Anyways, top 10 worst opening weekend ever for a film in over 2,000 theaters. Now, I see a metric like that, and then my ears immediately start to perk up, because it's like, oh, okay, cool. This is, it's the other side of the coin to, like, the Superman stuff, okay? Oh, it's one of the best opening weekends at the domestic box office that you're likely to see for a film that is released during this and this time frame. It's like, oh, what's with all these weird qualifiers? $646 per theater average, and it's like, yeah, you take a look at this stuff, and well, it's not great. $400,000 in previews, which should kind of set the tone and tenor for everything. It's like, yeah, this thing isn't exactly going to blow the doors off of anything. But then, yeah, opening up in 2,000 theaters to $700,000, good enough for 9th place over the weekend. Not great. Definitely not great at all. I don't know any of the other metrics that are out there. Don't know the cinema score. Don't know how well it's landing on IMDb. And quite frankly, I don't care, because the way that normally, like, your bigger budget, your tentpole films, your event films, however we're going to classify them moving forward, they normally get 3,000 screens, 4,000 if you're like a big dick swinging Disney production, but very rarely do you see a film get 2,000 screens. And so I don't necessarily know where they come up with the $646 per theater average. Maybe that's for the entire week. Oh, okay, yeah, but now that we have the actuals in, okay, so it was over the entire weekend, 1.3 million. Not great, okay? Not great at all. But what I think is so telling about this is the way that the media is reporting on this. Now, this is the Huffington Post, okay? Probably the epicenter of leftist hatred and fervor whenever it comes to mainstream media. And just look at the way that this is being categorized here. Okay, Sydney Sweeney's new movie bombed so badly, it made history. The Hollywood darling has hit a rough patch of late. What do you mean, man, of late? The star packed on 30 pounds to play pioneering boxer Christy Martin for the biopic Christy, but it got knocked out in the weekend box office. Christy grossed just $1.3 million despite being released in 2011 theaters, which puts it among the top 10 all-time worst openings, not including re-releases, on more than 2,000 screens, according to Box Office Mojo. But a spokesperson for the actor looked on the bright side, citing a high Rotten Tomatoes audience scores. Box office aside, this one's a win in all the ways that matter, the spokesperson told the Huffington Post in an email on Monday. We're so proud to back independent cinema and share a story that genuinely deserves to be seen. But to say that she's on a losing streak and, oh, look at that, oh, she packed on 30 pounds. Well, what was the rest of the comment that followed that statement from Sydney? She's like, oh yeah, I put on like 30 pounds. I was training real hard for this. I got in the ring. I figured out some of the moves, obviously didn't perfect them, but a lot of that weight just simply ended up going to my boobs. I was like, ha ha ha, all funny, all well and good. But if you're writing vitriolic shit like this, if you're just condensing quotes like that, and then you're also throwing Trump up there for whatever reason, kind of know what you're doing. Because even if, Sydney comes out and talks about the box office disappointment, which is interesting, because there have been other films that have come out this year that have flopped quite a bit harder, if we're going to be completely honest, because I was looking for it, but I couldn't find a production budget for this, and I would imagine it probably wasn't that much. I would be shocked if it was anywhere, depending on Sydney's fee, which if she is doing this for the love of the game after all, which is what she's talking about here, we don't always make art for the numbers, we make it for the impact. I would be surprised if it's anywhere north of 20 million, genuinely surprised about that. But yeah, and so if it ends up making $10 million at the box office, that's not going to be quite as big of a flop as, say, I don't know, Smashing Machine, Mickey 17, Tron Ares. Do we need to continue to go down the line? But yes, Sydney Sweeney is shrugging off the dismal box office start of Christy, a biographical drama in which she portrays the trailblazing boxer Christy Martin. The R-rated film was rejected with $1.3 million, ranking as one of the worst starts ever for a movie that was released in more than 2,000 North American theaters. Again, where I've never seen this standard applied to anything else before, but okay, we don't always just make the art for the numbers. We make it for the impact. Sweeney captioned in a lengthy Instagram post, and Christy has been the most impactful project of my life. Directed by David McCoy and co-starring Ben Foster, Merritt Weaver, and Katie O'Brien. I'm sure that these are people, okay? I'm sure that they are real, living, breathing people. I've just never heard of them before. So again, this is probably a fairly cheap film to make. And Christy chronicles Martin's, rise to fame in the ring, as well as her coach-turned-husband's attempted murder on her. Okay, in Variety's review, chief film critic Owen Gleiberman praised Sweeney's transformative performance and described Christy as a wrenching portrayal of abuse, enabling gaslighting, and had just how far domestic violence can go. So yeah, you see the rest of the post here. Thank you for everyone who saw, felt, and believed, and will believe in this story for years to come. If Christy gave even a one woman the courage to take her first step towards safety, then we will have succeeded. So yes, I'm proud. Why? Because we don't always just make the art for the numbers. We make it for the impact. And Christy has been the most impactful project of my life. Thank you, Christy. I love you. So yeah, she's trying to be conciliatory, but also not walk away from the fact that, this shit bombed to the theaters. Sucks to suck, I guess. But yeah, it's a good film. Go watch it. That's basically the takeaway from her. And that's the way that you go about this stuff, okay? You don't try to do, The Rock and the Smashing Machine. Well, you can't really control any of that stuff and blah, blah, blah. But the way that the varieties and the deadlines, and the Hollywood reporters would just lap the ass of The Rock. And another film that's out here, okay? Another film that just absolutely died at the box office and had an absolutely enormous budget. One battle after another, they continue to glaze this bullshit, even though it continues to flop at the box office. Interesting, right? Because, okay, you got Sydney Sweeney vehicle on one hand, and then you got the Antifa glazing disaster area on the other, when you have Leonardo DiCaprio says his character's look in one battle after another was inspired by Boba Fett. What the fuck? I had the vision of these wraparound optical glasses like Boba Fett. Yeah, because you could see he's obviously got wraparound shades under his Mandalorian armor. Those are the ones that I had to choose. But yeah, not being able to quit a movie that resonates with them. Hollywood relabels, yes, colossal flop, one battle after another, as comedy for giant PR and awards rescue. Wait, what? So you're telling me a film that by the time that it's all said and done on a $140 million budget, that is more than likely going to end up losing well north of 100 million, maybe even more than that with marketing factored in. And in a film that, if you look at this past weekend's box office, actually performed worse than Christy. Hollywood just, it cannot stand seeing somebody who will not toe the line succeed, and they will try to bury them the moment that they falter. And so to properly close this out, because we know the position of Hollywood, we know the position of the public, and while I think that there's rebound potential, or at least there's a silver lining in regards to the Christy situation, one thing is for certain: Sydney Sweeney's gonna be totally fine on this because she has the right approach to the situation.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
Exactly. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.